Money, business, success, it's all about perspective. Welcome to The Balanced Perspective, the podcast where we discuss all things business.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alicia Smith, and I'm the host for this evening's episode of The Balanced Perspective. Welcome. So today I have with me Dr. Tami Francis from NIB, who will be giving us a little overview and talking about the changes that took place this year. Welcome, and just tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, like you said, my name is Dr. Tami Francis. I am a 22-year veteran of the National Insurance Board. I have been exposed to many different areas throughout my career, inclusive of chemistry, biology, food science, nutrition,
There you go.
and then actuarial science and social security to bring it all together. And finally, business management and administration. But the National Insurance Board, always a hot topic.
Very hot topic.
And one that I think many persons may not understand completely. But the National Insurance Board would have been started back in 1974, October 7th, and we recently celebrated our 50th year anniversary.
Congratulations.
So, yes, it's a great feat. The National Insurance Board, I think, is a safety net for the Bahamas. We would have, I think, really understood as in totality as a country the importance of national insurance during Hurricane Dorian, as well as, and how can we forget the pandemic?
Oh yes, yes.
The National Insurance Board is responsible more so for two things: income replacement, and of course to collect. The most important thing is collect the contributions from our workers.
Everybody knows that. So every time you look at your paycheck and you see this little amount deducted, and people don't understand the importance of what that goes to.
You said it right. A little amount deducted. So recently, we would have embarked on the contribution rate increase campaign. And what happened there was we increased our contribution rate that I would say changed only once over the 50-year period. And that was actually to accommodate an additional benefit, and that was the unemployment benefit. So no Social Security scheme was ever designed to not have sufficient or consecutive and additional contribution rate increases. So that 1% was only there to pay out the unemployment benefit. However, the contribution rate increase.
Because I was just about to ask you that as well, because not only did you have the increase in the percentage, you had the increase in the ceiling, what we know as the ceiling. So why both?
Okay, so let's take one at a time. So you have the contribution rate increase. Like I said, that is absolutely necessary for sustainability of our fund, viability of the fund, insolvency. We right now, you and I, we want a pension when we retire.
You're right about that.
So we are paying out more in benefits than we are taking in contributions, and that would have happened around 2016. So we are now at that point where we are in 2024. 2029, this is when our reserves, all of our investment income will be depleted.
You're right.
And we don't want to get there.
No.
So in order to ensure that you and I and everybody else is able to get that pension, the contribution rate is one of the recommendations made to help with sustainability of the fund. Now, I have been in several forums where discussions would have been had, where individuals, I think we did such an excellent job at the contribution rate increase campaign that I think persons forgot about the ceiling increase.
You're absolutely right about that, because I did not remember that until you said that to me earlier today.
Right. So the ceiling increases, they happen every 2 years, the biennial increases. So what happens there is we are not only increasing the insurable wage for our workers, we are also increasing the benefit payments for our pensioners to ensure that with regards to inflation, they are still able, that dollar is still able to buy
the same value later on.
Still able to buy the same carton of milk or same butter or whatever it is, loaf of bread. But this has been that has actually been happening since well, for actually more than 10 years.
Okay.
So I think because persons were just hearing so much of the contribution rate increase, I don't think they remembered that we've been doing that for every 2 years for the past 10 years. So that in itself, unfortunately, it fell in the same year and the same,
As
at
the
the
rate
sa- yes. So I'm sure that persons, of course, nobody, is always, they're embracing change. But it is, believe me, it is very, very necessary. So we were able to move our rate increases for our employed persons from 3.4% to 4.65%.
Right.
3.9% to 4.65%, and for the workers to 5.9% to 6.65%.
Okay, so you mentioned that just now, and I want to go back a little bit because we spoke about some of the benefits of having NIB, and especially for business owners, because some of them I think that NIB, you have it there when it's business license season, you pay your NIB contribution so you could get your license reinstated, but it's a little bit more than that. And you just mentioned the difference between the rates for a self-employed person versus an employee. Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay.
What's the difference?
So the unemployment benefit payment, self-employed persons are not eligible for that. Okay. So that is actually shared by the employer and the employee 1%. So you have a 0.5% employer-employee.
Right.
Because self-employed persons are not eligible, their contribution rate is 1% less than employed persons, or let's say a privately insured person.
Right.
So these individuals, they receive pretty much all of the benefits with the exception of the unemployment. Yes.
So this question may sound silly, but is that something that a self-employment can opt in or opt out of?
Okay, so here's the deal on that. Right now, it was in the region. We have only 3 of the Social Security institutions throughout the region. That would be Barbados being the first,
Okay.
Bahamas being the second. We have Grenada, very, very recently. Turks and Caicos, so I'll say 4. Turks and Caicos should be done with theirs now. So we have 4. Now, Grenada, here's what is very interesting about Grenada and very different. Grenada is actually including self-employed persons.
Okay.
So the Bahamas, we would have been out the gate since 2009, 2010. Now we are really following the Grenadian experience to see how they are actually embracing the self-employed persons. I know during the pandemic, we had those self-employed persons, and that's when we realized we had a category of persons that there was no work.
Right.
So what happened in that regard, that's where the government ended up stepping in, and we had the government-assisted unemployment program to try to accommodate and cover all of those individuals, even those persons who would have recently started working. Those individuals were another set of another pocket of the employment sector that would not have been covered, because in order to qualify for that benefit, you would have to have been working for at least a year.
Right.
And so, we had a lot of persons, even those persons, unfortunately, we had persons on work permit. They too are not covered under the unemployment benefit program. And again, Grenada, they cover persons on work permit. So we are again watching to see what their experience has been and how they are actually incorporating this into their day-to-day and their daily operation. We recently had the 32nd CARICOM meeting for Social Security heads, and we had sessions where we had a few discussions, but for the Bahamas, it's always good to actually feel it. So I think it would be a good thing for us to go on a trip, and actually see it in operation, sit down, ask questions, speak to those persons, speak to recipients to see how it has been working for them.
Working out.
So I think within Social Security, the Bahamas, I think not many persons know, but we actually have a carbon copy of the Guyana
Okay.
Social Security scheme. So throughout the region, we do collaborate from time to time to try to make sure that we are, I guess, still innovative and doing what is supposed to be happening within Social Security. Many times we can get lax in what we do. We say it's working, but I think we are evolving. This, and I smile when I say we are evolving. I study generational cohorts. So we are evolving.
Yes.
And the Gen Z in the workplace is a very interesting
group of individuals to work with, to say the least.
Yes. So I think along those lines, what we may have done traditionally in past years, we may need to spice it up.
Get a little bit more creative.
Yes.
So I just want to sidestep just a little bit. And I know we're talking about Bahamians and everything, but I would also like to, and I think our viewers would also like to understand, what impact does the expat have to our national insurance system as well?
So, okay, we have several of our hospitality, our hotels, of course, our banks. I can't tell you in terms of ratio or off the top of my head, but we do have a lot of persons in. I wish I knew the amount, but the requirements from your end and my end are the same requirements that we place on them on at any given time. Even through the government, we may have. And again, I know I keep speaking about COVID. We would have seen the exodus of some of our workers in the medical field. So, of course, we would have had to bring in persons from different countries. So, in bringing those persons in, national insurance, of course, in collaboration with the government, we would have those individuals. We would make sure we see those persons' numbers and whatnot, or whatever is needed from our end completed. So we see them, Atlantis, Bahama, and the like. We see them bringing in their persons. I think that's a very good question that you asked, and that's something I think in looking at our statistics to see exactly what they actually do pour into, because speaking about Grenada and persons on work permit, I think during COVID, those individuals would have been another group who may or may not have been, able to, I guess, benefit from
the dollars that the government put in.
So that's something that we are in discussion and just really wanting to see how something like that in pretty much based on how the Bahamas is right now made up. Of course, we have a very wide how do I say it? Non-Bahamian population.
We do.
Yes.
We do.
So we need to see how we actually would incorporate that or not incorporate it. And, and that's a lengthy discussion to have.
That's definitely a lengthy discussion. So just to wrap this up, what type of advice would you give to the self-employed person versus the employee, and how best for them to utilize the NIB system that they've been putting into their careers?
Okay, so I'll say this. Throughout my career at NIB, I would say we see probably about 25% of the self-employed population actually making their contributions.
Okay.
Right. And it's low. So what has happened over the past few months, we are into technology, innovation. We have introduced an actual app.
Okay.
That's called Easy Submit and Pay.
Okay.
That would allow smaller businesses to go online, download the app from the Apple and the what's the next one? I'm Apple.
The Android.
Yes. From their Play Store. And they will be able to actually pay using their phone. I think a lot of the delinquency from the self-employed end would be probably it's so tedious for the paperwork. But if you're able to get it done easily and quickly, we may increase those numbers. So I would say to self-employed persons, it is important. It is very, very important to pay those national insurance contributions.
Pay your national insurance contributions, okay?
Understand that we in terms of self-employed persons, let's say you have an injury on the job.
Right.
You work for yourself. At that point in time, you may not be able to walk, you may not be, whatever it is. At least, remember I said NIB is responsible for income replacement.
Yes.
So at least that's something that's coming in, you know. So from time to time, many self-employed persons may wait until it's very close to retirement
to start.
And they say no. So declare whatever it is your insurable wages are, declare those wages and pay those rates.
Yes.
Pay it. When you get you reach the age of early retirement, be it 60, or full retirement, be it 65, you will thank me for this. Believe me. You don't know what's going to happen. Actually, you don't know what's going to happen today. So national insurance is, like I said, it is our safety net.
Right.
So, and it's there. I'll say this. Remember, for retirement, national insurance was not designed to be your only payment during retirement.
Okay.
So you also have your personal savings,
pension,
and you have your pension, and then there's national insurance. You got your 3 pillars. So putting that together, you should be able to afford yourself during retirement. But if you wait and you try to do it just off of national insurance, believe me,
it's going to be tough.
Yes, very much so. So I just say to my self-employed persons, my father was self-employed. And I will say for him, he had 5 children. He didn't pay his national insurance. He's no longer here. It's been about 20 plus years, but he didn't pay his national insurance, but he had us.
Right.
Not everyone has that, the
family structure.
Yes.
Yeah. To pick up the slack.
So I think it's essential.
All right.
And then it's mandated by law.
Well, that's true too. But Dr. Francis, thank you so much for being a part of our podcast today.
You're very welcome.
And we hope that, all the changes that are being rolled out, we know that they're going to be very beneficial to the people. And to our listeners, take her advice, make sure you get registered, sign up for NIB, make your contributions because it's only going to benefit you in the long run. Thank you. And thank you for coming back to A Balanced Perspective.
Thanks for tuning in to The Balanced Perspective. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Balance Advisors 242 for more insights, updates, and expert tips. And remember, a new episode drops every Wednesday. Until next time, stay balanced.